Thanks, Noelle. Everybody's heard of Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, but few folks have heard of the second most important reindeer, Bernie. Bernie was not very popular, and Santa had a hard time finding him a job. They tried to put him in the workshop to help the elves make toys, but his antlers kept knocking everything down. They tried to put him in the kitchen to help with Christmas dinner, but all the yams, hams, and shish kebabs they put in front of him tended to disappear. Bernie also did not like going outside, and he was very clumsy, so he was not going to join the sleigh team. They didn't know what to do. Finally, someone realized Bernie was a very friendly reindeer. He listened and talked to everyone and was very understanding. So they decided to put him in the North Pole call center to take those important incoming calls for Santa. It was a perfect fit. Bernie, the red phone reindeer. Back to you at the North Pole Central Station.
Thanks, Noelle, for that update. You know, a lot of people think that Rudolph is the most famous reindeer, but there's actually another one that's just as famous. His name is Bernie. Santa really liked Bernie, so Santa was trying to get Bernie a job. So Santa sent him over to make toys, but he kept knocking over everything with his antlers. So then they sent him to the kitchen and they were like, here, you can help us cook, but all the yams and hams and shish kebabs that they gave him, he just ate them. So finally they moved him over to the call center where he became Bernie with the red phone. Get it? Instead of Bernie with the red nose. And yeah, back to you, Noelle.
I've got a story for you. And so Noelle, thank you for the update. You guys, a lot of people think that Rudolph from the red-nosed reindeer fame is the most famous reindeer, but actually there was another reindeer out there that is arguably equally as famous, and especially in this learning and development world that we work in. His name is Bernie. And here's the deal. Santa loved Bernie as much as he loved Rudolph, you could say, maybe if not more. But Bernie had issues getting a job, and Santa really wanted to help him get a job. He sent him to the toy shop, but he kept knocking over all the toys with his antlers. It's kind of a pain. The second job that they gave him was in the kitchen, but he kept on eating the yams and the hams and the shish kebabs. It was, it didn't work out. And so finally, in true learning and development fashion, always trying to help people and find what they're really good at, they sent Bernie over to the call center. And this is how we get Bernie with the red phone, equally as famous as whoever that other guy is with the red nose. And that's the story. Back to you, Noelle.
The story that I would like to share with you that I heard from Kassy is, I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it Bernie the Red Phone Reindeer. So according to what I learned about, Rudolph wasn't the only famous reindeer, along with his buddies that we know about in the song. There was another reindeer that was just as famous, as at least in the North Pole environment. And his name was Bernie. That's right, Bernie. But Bernie wasn't very good at flying the sleigh for Santa. He wasn't very good at other jobs he was given at the North Pole, except for one. And that's the one that Bernie became famous for. And Bernie, he made a killing when it came to the customer service and the call center. So Bernie became famous because of his red phone, not his red nose, but Bernie, the red phone reindeer. That's a beautiful story, and I'm grateful that Bernie made it and found his happy place. And now it's up to you, whoever's next in the chain.
Okay, I'm here to tell you a story about one of the lesser known reindeers in Santa Claus's brood of reindeers, right? I'm here to tell you this story, not about Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen. I'm here to tell you about Bernie, not Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, but Bernie, the red phone reindeer. Now, let me tell you how that happened. So Bernie, being a reindeer hanging out in the North Pole, Santa Claus was like, hey, we should get you in front of the sleigh. We should do some stuff, right? And Bernie's like, sure, we'll try that out. Turns out he was terrible at it, but not just leading the sleigh. He was terrible at all the stuff, right? Couldn't decorate trees, couldn't wrap presents, couldn't really oversee the elves, couldn't do any of that stuff. Had no clue, just all over the place, right? He's all paws, couldn't do it. So Santa, being the cool cat that he is, helped him along in figuring out his special purpose, right? His, where he fits the best. And it turns out Bernie was absolutely amazing on the phone, right? In a call center, on the helpline, he was doing his thing over and over again and killing it, right? Absolutely killing it. Like it's his job, like could not get enough. So it turns out that his special purpose, his special calling was literally being on the phone and answering calls and helping Santa's workshop that way, right? ROI's up, customer complaints are down, and Bernie became known as Bernie, the red phone reindeer, because they gave him a red phone. So Bernie, the red phone reindeer, in his own special way, also continues to improve and save Christmas every year.
I'm going to tell you a Christmas story that not many people have heard of, and it's about Bernie the red phone reindeer. Now, we've all heard of Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer and his story and how he helped Santa and all the reindeer, get through the foggy Christmas Eve years, however many years ago that was, I guess hundreds or thousands now. But Bernie had a similar story as Rudolph in that he was not particularly talented at any of the reindeer games. He really struggled with fitting in with all of the other reindeer and contributing at the North Pole. The reindeer typically, the real height of a reindeer career is to be part of Santa's fleet, to fly his sleigh and around the world on that critical night and deliver all the gifts to all the good little boys and girls all around the world. But he didn't even pass the initial tests for flight. We're talking, just the 100-meter dash runway, all the things that you might expect a young up and coming reindeer to do to take his spot on Santa's team of flying reindeer. But Rudolph, who was a mentor for him, along with the other reindeer, helped him along. And over time, they found that even though he couldn't do all the things the other reindeer could do, ranging from, as we said, flying to just doing things around the yard, helping with getting this thing from here to there, pulling things, and all the things that reindeer typically do, taking messages from one place to another, anything you can think about regarding creatures like that live up in the north cold areas. Well, there's all kinds of things that they would be put to work doing. He really couldn't help with any of it. He just didn't have the skills. Well, one thing he finally was able to help with, and he got help from Santa actually on this, who really reaches out to all of his staff, including elves, reindeer, you name it. He is certainly that jolly old elf wasn't going to let Bernie suffer. So one of the things you may not know is there is a hotline into the North Pole. And I've actually called it when my kids were younger to find out, get an update, make sure that, Santa got the kids' letters or whatnot. Bernie was hot on the phone. He was great at just putting on that headset, and the calls would come in. He would handle it with, great professionalism, very, great voice tone, customer handling skills, resolving concerns. It was really a boost for the call center there at the North Pole. So, he got a red phone because that's where the hotline was red, as you might imagine. But that's how he became known as Bernie the red phone reindeer. That's the end.
All right, children, gather around because I have a Christmas story for you. So You've heard of Dasher and Dancer, Prancer and Vixen, Comet and Cupid, Donner and Blitzen, and you've heard of Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer. But have you ever heard of Bernie, the red-nosed reindeer? So Bernie was the reindeer who came from the land of misfits, and he came along with Rudolph during Rudolph's last trek to the Misfit Island. The problem is that Bernie was kind of clumsy and had no real skills that he knew of. So Rudolph had to mentor him to help him discover his true talent. So they played reindeer games, which Bernie really sucked at, and they tried having Bernie lead a test run for Santa, and he was a disaster at it because he got all of the routes mixed up. And all the elves in the workshop came complaining to me because I'm the head elf at Santa's workshop, and they wanted to know what could they do about Bernie. But Rudolph wasn't going to give up on Bernie. So under Rudolph's mentorship, Bernie continued to try his hand at different skills, from like toy making to taking the toys from Santa's workshop from one place to another in order to be loaded up onto the sleigh, to loading up the gifts on the sleigh. The problem is that a lot of gifts went missing and people couldn't understand why. So all the elves were like, what do we do? But yet again, Rudolph wasn't going to give up on Bernie because they shared the nose so bright that shines through the night. And Rudolph decided to get Bernie a emotional support puppy to help him kind of lose some of the anxiety that was causing him to be so bad at his jobs. And so with his emotional support puppy, Bernie, the red-nosed reindeer, began to try to play at the tasks again that were being assigned to him. Finally, Rudolph had this bright idea. His nose went red and shiny, and he suggested to Bernie, why don't we put you in the Elf Support Center, where you can answer calls and track Santa's pass for children who are trying to look on the NASA or the radar to see where Santa is, and make sure that the kids know that Santa is on his way. So they gave Bernie a headset and put him in the call center, and Bernie soon found his true calling as he answered calls from children from all over the place who wanted to know where Santa was in his track and in his journey to them, to make sure that he wasn't going to miss them, because God knows my kids in my house always believed that Santa's going to skip them, but Bernie was there to reassure them that he wasn't going to skip them at all. And so finally, after his last Christmas, his first Christmas in the call center, today Bernie is the lead elf support reindeer who answers calls in the contact center, in the elf contact center, and he is the one who keeps children happy until Santa gets to their house to drop off their gifts. And that's the story of Bernie the red-nosed reindeer.
Gather around, kids. I've got a Christmas story to tell you all. You might have heard of Rudolph and all the other reindeers, but have you heard of Bernie the red-nosed reindeer? Well, this story is about Bernie the red-nosed reindeer, who is also one of Rudolph's friends. Now, Bernie the red-nosed reindeer is from an island called the Island of Misfits. And Rudolph found Bernie on this island. on his last trip to the Misfit Island. And he brought him back to be one of the reindeers who could assist Santa. And but there was a problem, and the problem was that Bernie wasn't really good at anything. At least that's what they felt when they first tried to give Bernie the different tasks. So Bernie was assigned first to try and make some toys, and he would break them. He was assigned to deliver the gifts, and he'd get the routes all mixed up, and wrong children would get the wrong gifts, and the good became the naughty, and the naughty became the good, and it was just a mess. And so um, Rudolph said, I'm not going to give up on you. I'm going to mentor you. And so Rudolph started mentoring him. And in the process, we gave him some small tasks, and he would mess them up as well. To the point that all the elves came running to me because I'm the head of the elf gang. And, they would come running to me like, this guy is really messing everything up, and we're not getting to do the work that we really need to do, and we're pressed on time, and you know how elves get. Anyway, so Rudolph wasn't going to give up on Bernie the red-nosed reindeer, and so Rudolph continued to work with him, and finally they realized that perhaps what Bernie really needs is some emotional help and support. So they got Bernie an emotional support puppy to help him cope with the challenging day-to-day activities that he's having to learn and figure out, and still to no avail. They tried really, really hard, but one day, both Rudolph and Bernie had what I like to call a red nose moment. Like a light bulb moment. So they had a red nose moment where the nose became all red and shiny, and they realized that, wait a minute, what if we could put Bernie in charge of the calls that are coming in from all the children from all around the world who are wanting to know, is Santa going to come this year, and are they going to get their gifts, or are they going to get skipped, are they in the good list or the naughty list? So they need some reassurance. And so Bernie was made responsible for taking these calls. He was given a headset and his own laptop, and he would sit there, take calls, and have conversations with these kids. And boy, did that work. So Bernie, it seems, found his calling, and many years now later, fast forward, and Bernie is leading the entire department of incoming calls for support to all the children around the world. And that is the story of Bernie the Red-Nosed Reindeer.